Hey, a number of you have asked me how I go about making these candies that I post onto Facebook, so I thought I would spend a little time here and make a video of me making the latest batch of candy. Uh, I'm making a Japanese pinwheel design, and the flavor in this particular batch is pomegranate that you see me adding to the hot sugar. The sugar is about 310 degrees, so it's pretty warm. It will burn you severely if you're not careful. So you got to be cautious. You'll see that I also am now adding citric acid. Helps bring out the flavor in the candy. You don't taste a lot if you don't have some kind of acidic additive into the sugar. Now I'm pouring out what looks like 4 equal pools of sugar. The point here is that I want to make 4 different colors, so I'm dividing it all up. Of course, they all have the same flavor in it because I added it before this step. And you're going to see me go ahead and start to make the colors that I'm going to use in this particular design. This is red, adding a little yellow, a little blue for my primary colors, a little white that's going to be used for its sort of to reflect and help enhance the colors. I'm going to mix them all here, and you'll see that it's boiling a little bit or steaming, and the purpose of that is to try to drive off any water. Water and hard candy is quite the enemy, and you're always trying to avoid adding any water or working in humid conditions. It turns out this is a nice cold day today, so it's a nice day for making candy. I'm mixing the white now. It turns out you don't really have to add white coloring if to use white. If you just take that amber sugar and pull it long enough, it will turn white as it incorporates a bunch of air bubbles into it like you do with a taffy machine. And now what you're seeing is I'm slowly peeling up the sugar as it cools on the edges and moving it into the center of each puddle, if you will, and that helps even out the temperature and eventually helps make it easier for me to mix the colors in throughout each grouping here. You'll notice I've sped this up quite a bit, and it's just in an effort to make this video go a little faster. All in all, it's only about 10 minutes or so. It's still pretty darn hot, probably up in the mid 200s, so it's I am wearing gloves under the blue gloves to help with the heat, and you'll see me occasionally just set my hands on the table, and that's just to try to help them cool off a bit. They get pretty warm. You'll see people often wear really heavy gloves like welder's gloves and stuff when it's this hot, but I can work pretty quick here and don't need it. Now I'm mixing the colors. I'm not going to pull them too much. I want them to maintain a transparent quality to them, and you'll see at the end why that is, but you can pull them quite a bit, and actually in this case a red would almost turn pink. It would pull enough white into it from the air bubbles that's incorporated from pulling. You see the folks who work with a lot of white color, they put them on essentially a taffy puller and help drive out or to drive in air bubbles and really generate a nice bright white crisp color. In this particular case, I don't need it to be that overall bright, but I do want it to be nice and opaque enough to help reflect the colors that I'm going to use in the design. So it turns out I don't want just 3 colors, I want 6 colors, and the nice thing about making the 3 primaries here is, if you remember in art school or in high school in art class, you can mix your primary colors to get just about any color you want. So I'm dividing these into fourths because I'm actually going to make 6 colors. So I'm going to cut them up here. And if you remember, of course, that when you mix your red and yellow, you get orange. When you mix your red and blue, you get purple. And your blue and yellow to get your green, and that's what I'm doing right here. Again, I'm just trying to pull it enough to mix the colors evenly. And it's hard to see, but in front of me there's it's actually a pancake griddle I use as a heat plate, and that helps slow the cooling down a little bit, helps me control temperature. The whole art of working with hard candy is to maintain temperature. If it gets too hot, of course it melts, you can't do anything with it. If it gets too cold, it gets brittle and you're done. So we work to keep that sort of clay texture, our state. Now I'm going to take each color and I'm going to make essentially a long triangle. Each one of these is going to be a wheel of the pinwheel, and on each edge I'll put a little white, and that will help divide the colors up when you look at the candy all assembled. So I'm going to go through each color and do this. I use this little spatula. It helps me make a little nicer, cleaner edges. Almost there. You see me occasionally rotate the sugar, or in this case, I'm even taking it off the heat plate because it's getting a little too warm, and I'm starting to lose the structure of the triangle, and so I can take them off the hot plate and cool them down this way a little bit. All right, now I've got my 6 triangles, and I'm going to start putting together my pinwheel by adding each of the colors together. That will give you my design. As long as I'm working with them when they're hot like this, they'll stick together pretty well. Even if they cool off a little bit, you can just run a little bit of water, like on a damp cloth, across the side of it, and it'll act like glue and piece them together. But I'm tending to work pretty quick, so they're still pretty have a pretty good adhesive quality to them. All right, so now I've got my master roll together here, and so I'm moving away from maintaining temperature to maintaining structure of the design, and I want to keep this round cylinder. And first thing I got to do is always make them sort of bite-sized, and that's what I'm doing now by stretching the cylinder out a little bit, and that design will be maintained, whether it was letters or colors or shape or whatever, throughout that whole structure, throughout all of those little rods that are being pulled out. They're also hot, and if they sit too long, they'll go flat. So you'll see me constantly rolling the cylinders to keep them from, or the rods to keep them from going flat and maintaining their circular structure. And that's what I'm doing now. This takes a little while because it's going from a pretty warm temperature to, you got to get them to their essentially cooled down so you can crack them. Lifting it up shows me that they're still not quite ready yet because they're deformed. Now I'm getting ready. I kind of cut it out there, but I did that for about 20 minutes off and on. So now they've cooled down quite a bit, and I'm going through the process of breaking them into bite-sized pieces. You can make these at different sizes. I like this size. It's about 1/2 inch, and it's a nice bite-sized piece. You can, of course, stretch the cylinders out or the rods out longer and thinner, and you get smaller pieces, or you can make different sizes for whatever you'd like, but this seems to work pretty well. And that hot table, you'd admit, of course, it sat for 20 minutes, so it's actually cooled down now. But I need that hard surface to cut against, so the pieces essentially crack off in smaller pieces. I'm getting them nearly finished. As you might guess, the rods that are in the middle of the thing look the best. Some of the ones on the end are a little more deformed one way or the other, but they all taste great. And so we just tend to mix them in, and nobody seems to care to worry too much about it. If it was something important, I guess you could weed them out. But the more careful you are, the more uniform your structure is throughout the whole sample set. I'm getting to the end. We'll cut the rest of these out and let them cool a little bit longer. Roll them around a little bit to get any sharp edges off, and then I'll bag them up and hand them to my friends and family, and hopefully they enjoy them. And it is a nice flavor, and they do seem pretty popular. Getting towards the end here. Here is the finished product as they lay it on the table. What I really like about them, though, is when you hold them up to the light, they really pop. Have a nice color to them in the light. You know, hold them up to the sun or what have you. Well, that's about it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a chance to get some of these. They are good. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know. No, thanks. Bye.